Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to tell you a story about being 26 years old, brilliant on the inside, full of ideas, dreams, and potential, but feeling completely invisible whenever English is involved. Imagine waking up every day knowing you're smart, knowing you have something valuable to say, but the moment you try to express it in English, your voice shrinks, your thoughts scatter, and you choose silence over the risk of being judged. That was the reality for someone I want you to picture clearly in your mind. At 26, they had already achieved a lot academically. They were quick learners, creative thinkers, and problem solvers. Friends came to them for advice, colleagues respected their work, and family believed in their future. But in meetings, interviews, and social situations where English dominated the conversation, they felt like a shadow of themselves. They would rehearse sentences in their head, translate ideas word by word, and by the time they were ready to speak, the moment had already passed. This invisibility wasn't because of a lack of intelligence. It wasn't because of laziness or a weak work ethic. It was fear mixed with a lack of structured practice. Every mistake felt like a spotlight shining on their insecurities. They compared themselves to fluent speakers and assumed confidence was something you were born with, not something you could build. For years, they waited for a magical moment when their English would suddenly become perfect. That moment never came. What finally changed everything was a simple decision. Instead of chasing perfection, they would focus on 3 small daily tasks designed to build real, practical confidence. Not textbook confidence. Not fake bravado. Real confidence that comes from repeated action. The first task was deceptively simple: speaking out loud to themselves in English for 10 minutes every single day. At first, it felt awkward and even a little silly. They would close the door, look around to make sure no one was listening, and start describing their day in English. They talked about what they ate for breakfast, what they planned to do at work, and how they felt about their goals. In the beginning, sentences were broken and full of pauses. They searched for words and sometimes switched back to their native language. But they made one rule: no judgment. Those 10 minutes were a safe space to experiment. Over time, something powerful happened. Their brains started forming direct connections between thoughts and English words, without the constant need to translate. As days turned into weeks, those private conversations became smoother. They noticed they could speak for longer without stopping. Their pronunciation improved because they were hearing their own voice and adjusting it. More importantly, their fear of hearing themselves speak English began to fade. They realized that mistakes weren't disasters, they were stepping stones. This daily speaking habit trained their brain to treat English as a tool, not an obstacle. It was like going to the gym for their voice. Each session was small, but the consistency built strength. They started carrying that confidence into real conversations, volunteering short comments in meetings, and asking simple questions instead of staying silent. The second task focused on active listening and imitation. Every day, they chose a short piece of English audio, like a podcast clip, an interview, or a motivational video, and listened to it carefully. But they didn't just listen passively. They paused after each sentence and tried to repeat it with the same rhythm and tone. At first, this exercise was frustrating. Native speakers sounded fast and effortless, and copying them felt impossible. But they broke it down into tiny segments. 1 sentence at a time. 1 phrase at a time. They paid attention to how words connected and how emotions were expressed through voice. This practice sharpened their ears. They started recognizing common patterns and phrases that appeared again and again in everyday English. Instead of memorizing random vocabulary lists, they were absorbing language in context. Their pronunciation improved because they were modeling real speech. They began to understand that confidence isn't about speaking quickly or using complicated words. It's about clarity and natural flow. After a few weeks, they noticed that conversations became easier to follow. They didn't panic when someone spoke fast. Their listening skills gave them a sense of control, and that control translated into confidence. The third task was the most challenging but also the most transformative: daily micro-interactions in English with real people. Every day, they set a small, achievable goal. It could be sending a voice message to a friend in English, leaving a short comment online, or starting a brief conversation with a colleague. The rule was simple: one real interaction per day, no matter how small. At first, their heart raced before each attempt. They worried about being misunderstood or judged. But they reminded themselves that growth lives outside the comfort zone. These micro-interactions acted like bridges between private practice and public communication. Each successful exchange, no matter how imperfect, added a brick to their confidence. They began collecting small wins. A colleague understood their explanation. A friend responded positively to their message. A stranger appreciated their effort. These moments proved that communication is about connection, not perfection. Even when misunderstandings happened, they learned to laugh, clarify, and continue. Instead of seeing mistakes as proof of failure, they saw them as feedback. As months passed, the combined effect of these three tasks became undeniable. Their inner dialogue changed. Instead of thinking, "My English is not good enough," they started thinking, "I can express myself, and I'm improving every day." This shift in mindset was crucial. Confidence is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to act despite fear. By practicing daily, they built evidence that they were capable. Evidence is stronger than positive thinking alone. It's built through action. At 26, they were still the same intelligent, creative person, but now their voice matched their mind. In meetings, they shared ideas without overthinking every word. In social situations, they joined conversations instead of observing from the sidelines. Opportunities that once felt intimidating became exciting challenges. They realized that being invisible had never been their destiny. It was a temporary state shaped by habits and beliefs. By changing their habits, they changed their experience. What makes this story powerful is that it's not about extraordinary talent or expensive courses. It's about consistent, intentional practice. 10 minutes of speaking to yourself. Focused listening and imitation. One small real interaction each day. These tasks are simple enough for anyone to start, yet powerful enough to create lasting change. They work because they target the core components of communication: speaking, listening, and real-world application. Together, they form a system that builds confidence from the inside out. If you're watching this and feeling brilliant but invisible, know that you're not alone. Many capable people hide behind silence because they fear imperfection. But your ideas deserve to be heard. Your voice deserves space. Confidence is not a gift reserved for a lucky few. It's a skill you can train. Every time you choose to speak, listen actively, and engage with others, you're investing in that skill. Progress might feel slow at first, but small daily actions compound over time in ways that are almost magical. There will be days when motivation dips and doubt creeps back in. On those days, remember why you started. Remember the version of yourself that stayed silent and the future version that speaks freely. Growth is rarely linear. Some days will feel like setbacks, but they are part of the journey. What matters is returning to the tasks, again and again, with patience and persistence. Treat yourself with kindness during the process. Celebrate small improvements. Notice how sentences come more easily, how your ears catch familiar phrases, and how interactions feel less intimidating. Over time, you'll realize that confidence in English spills into other areas of life. When you prove to yourself that you can overcome one fear, other challenges seem more manageable. You start trusting your ability to learn and adapt. That trust is the foundation of self-belief. It transforms not only how you communicate but also how you see yourself. You stop labeling yourself as someone who is bad at English and start identifying as someone who is actively improving. The person in this story didn't become perfect. They still made mistakes, searched for words, and occasionally felt nervous. But perfection was never the goal. The goal was visibility. The goal was participation. By committing to those 3 daily tasks, they stepped out of the shadows and into conversations that shaped their career and relationships. They discovered that the world is more welcoming than their fears suggested. Most people appreciate effort and authenticity more than flawless grammar. So if you're 26, or any age, and you feel brilliant but invisible, take this story as an invitation. Start today with 10 minutes of speaking to yourself. Choose a short audio clip and imitate it. Initiate one small interaction in English. Repeat tomorrow. And the day after that. Let consistency do the heavy lifting. Trust the process even when results aren't immediately obvious. Confidence grows quietly at first, like roots beneath the surface, and then one day you notice it standing tall in your everyday life. Your voice carries your ideas, your personality, and your dreams. It connects you to opportunities and people you haven't met yet. Don't wait for the perfect moment to use it. Build it, nurture it, and share it. The journey from invisible to confident is not reserved for a special few. It's available to anyone willing to practice with intention and courage. And as you walk that path, you'll discover that the brilliance you always had inside can finally be seen and heard by the world.